train, it's respect. Not sure if you guys can hear it. All right. So first, thank you guys for joining us this evening, well, this afternoon. I would like to say welcome to Louisiana's DOTD sponsored webinar for DBEs, small businesses, and those that are looking to get certified. My name is Mandy, and I am with SGI, and I will be your host today. We are excited to welcome Miller Hillard, a bond broker. Miller, welcome. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background while I go on mute while this train just got extremely loud?
Hey, everybody. Thank you all for jumping on. And again, thank you all for being here. To give you a little background, I'm Miller. I am with R.A. Brunson Bonding. We're a surety bond only agency based out of Baton Rouge. We do carry surety appointments in all 50 states and have contractors spread out from coast to coast and are able to handle those needs. We have been a surety bond only agency since the early 70s. And or have stayed that way that entire time. We don't write any insurance. We specialize exclusively in providing contract surety for our contractors, and it's really been a great fit for us because almost everyone else in the industry tries to handle insurance and bonds, and the bonding side of it is just so different than the insurance side that having somebody who really just focuses on this day to day, it really provides a lot of value to our customers. The way that we normally explain it is if you're an electrical contractor and somebody asks you to build a bridge, that doesn't mean that you're a bad contractor if you struggle. It's just not what you do every day. And that's kind of the same spot we're in. So we'll jump into it shortly and kind of give you an idea of, I'm sure there's a little bit different spread of contractors here, some that are maybe just trying to jump into this space and others who have a lot more experience in the area. And so we'll kind of start with just explaining the basic kind of foundation level of what this is and why it's required, and then get into the different aspects of actually creating a program and how you grow it and what steps can be taken on your end to make sure that the bonding side is never holding you back from growing. So that's kind of where we'll get started. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put something in the chat or say something. We'd be happy to answer any of those questions. If not, we'll stay on for a couple minutes after and answer whatever questions we have. So getting into it, and if you do have questions, my cell and my email address are at the bottom. You feel free to text, call, or email, whatever's good for you. We're happy to answer any questions. So one of the most common questions contractors kind of run into when they start. Yep.
Hey, I'm sorry, just to chime in really quickly. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump into the Q&A. And then I'll be monitoring these and making sure that Miller is able to respond to those. So please, if you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the Q&A. And I am also enabling the chat. I just realized it's disabled, so pardon me for that. But I will let you guys know when the chat is reopened. But please, if you have any questions as he's speaking, make sure you drop them in the Q&A portion.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, go ahead.
So jumping back into it, one of the most common questions that our contractors ask when they start getting into the bonding side of the commercial industry is, isn't this just the same thing as insurance? That's what we get a ton. So to try to help you understand the difference between the two and why they're such a different product, we'll kind of break into it. Insurance is a two-party agreement, where a surety bond is a three-party agreement. And in an insurance agreement, one party is essentially transferring all of their risk to somebody else. So a contractor is saying, hey, I'm getting rid of all of my risk of whatever it may be. To give you a better example for insurance, if you insure your car, you're getting rid of the risk of needing to replace that vehicle or getting rid of your liability risk and transferring that risk to the insurance company. With a surety agreement, there are three parties instead of two, and those three are the contractor, the insurance company, the surety, and then the owner of the project. So the biggest difference between them is, unlike a transfer of risk, the contractor in a bonded project has skin in the game. They're normally sign, or really always sign, an indemnity agreement, which is the same thing as a personal guarantee And the sureties will like to tell you, we're promising to stand behind you and your company, stand behind your ability to build whatever it may be, a school, a bridge, a road, a building. We're willing to stand behind your company and guarantee that you'll do it correctly. We want you to stand behind your company personally as well. So there's a personal guarantee as part of that agreement, unlike an insurance where it's just a transfer to somebody else. So like I mentioned, the three parties in that agreement are the principal, which is the contractor or subcontractor, the obligee, which is the owner, the government entity, or the surety. The principal, being the contractor or subcontractor, is the person being asked to put up the bond. In this case, the bond doesn't protect the contractor. The bond is there to protect the owner of this project, because whether it's the City of Baton Rouge or East Baton Rouge Parish, the Army Corps of Engineers, the City of Shreveport, whoever it may be, they want to guarantee that the project that they're putting out for bid is going to be done by a contractor capable of cash flowing this project, capable of doing it correctly, and they want to make sure that their project doesn't get liened. So they want to make sure that all their subcontractors and all the suppliers on that project get paid. And then the final party is the surety, which is typically an insurance company, and it's their job to guarantee that. So what they'll do is they'll underwrite the contractor based on the contractor's ability, based on experience, based on resumes, and look at it. And then the most important part being the financial strength. And based on those factors, we'll guarantee that that contractor can do it correctly. So getting into the types of bonds, why they're required and when they're required, the three most common types that you'll see in construction projects. Now, granted, there are 100 other types of bonds that are way less common or certainly less hassle to get. But the most common are going to be bid bonds, performance bonds, and payment bonds. Bid bonds are turned in at the time that you submit your price and your bid packet to an owner. In a bid bond, in its most simple form, is a pre-qualification tool. It's guaranteeing to the owner of the project that whoever is the selected bidder has been pre-qualified to give them a performance and payment bond, because a performance and payment bond is really what they're after. That performance and payment bond guarantees that the contract is done correctly, is done on time, is done within scope, and that all the subcontractors, suppliers, and laborers are all paid. That's really what they're after. And by requiring a bid bond, it takes that pre-qualification burden away from the owner. So if it's the city of Baton Rouge, instead of the city themselves going and looking at every contractor and making sure that each contractor is really capable of it, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hassle. Instead of them doing it, they just say, look, you turn in a bid bond, we'll let the insurance company and the broker, we'll let them guarantee that you're capable of doing this. And that way they do the pre-qualification instead of us. So then getting into the performance and payment bond, again, that's really the golden ticket of what the owner is looking for here. Almost always these two come as a package. Sometimes you'll see something a little goofy where it's 100% performance bond and maybe a 50% payment bond, but that's much less common. Normally what you'll see is 100% performance bond and 100% payment bond. And when I say 100%, meaning 100% of the contract value. So like they sound, the performance bond guarantees that you perform the contract and complete it as is laid out in the contract. So if you're building a school and they want to make sure that school is built to the exact specifications that are laid out in the specs. And then the payment bond, which again normally comes together, guarantees that all of the contractors pay the subs and suppliers and laborers on that job. So moving on to kind of getting an idea now of understanding what the types of bonds are and why they're required. Then the next step is, well, how do I go about getting a bonding program set up? What are kind of the steps that you need to take to get there? So there are two main types of programs that you'll see. The first is a fast track program, and the second is a standard program. The fast track program is a really great tool for contractors who are smaller and looking to get that bonding program kind of off the ground and rolling as the company gets moving into that space. That's the fast track program is based on the owner's personal credit, and they'll look at the business credit a little bit, but the main factor is the owner's personal credit. The benefit to these systems is they're really quick to set up, they're easy, and those limits cover a lot of the projects that you'll do as you're kind of getting your company off the ground. The bad side of it is they're a more expensive program, and there's a lot less flexibility within them. So normally you'll see those approvals will go anywhere from 250,000 up to 750,000. There's a couple sureties who will get really aggressive and go up to 1 million, but there's only one or two of those in the country, and they're looking for credit scores in the 800s. So they look at it of it's got to be perfect. We have to have a really good resume on them, and if so, we can maybe stretch it up to about 1 million. But most of the time, what you'll see is around that 500,000 mark is kind of where those programs cap out. The next step is to start gathering company and personal financial statements. And from there, the sureties look a little less on personal credit and look more on your ability to cash flow the project. So once they start getting that information coming in, they can say, okay, given that the financial strength of this company and given the financial strength of the owner outside of this, we have more information for us to use as our underwriting approach. So they can get more aggressive in the amount of credit they can extend and can reduce the rate. So the standard, the standard bonding program, what a surety is looking for a full program would be 3 years of company financials, meaning your balance sheet and your profit and loss, will be the personal financial statement on the owner. They'll look into the personal credit, they'll look at the business credit, and a lot of times they'll look at getting some sort of resume to get an idea of what size projects you've done in the past, to kind of get an idea of where you're comfortable and what size projects you're comfortable with. From there, they'll underwrite, and the two biggest things that the surety is going to look at when determining the size of program they're willing to offer is the financial strength, specifically being the working capital. So when we say working capital, they're going to look at all your current assets, they're going to subtract all of your current liabilities, and that number left is what they're going to look at. And to them, that's the best way to gauge your ability to cash flow a project is the working capital that you have to handle those expenses over the next 6, 8, 10, 12 months. So that's a really big piece for them. Normal underwriting guidelines are 10 times your working capital is the amount of capacity you're willing to get. So if you have, let's say $100,000 between all of your cash and all of your receivables and $50,000 for all of your payables and current expenses that are going out, and you're left with that 50,000 working capital number, a traditional surety says, okay, based on 50,000 in working capital, we can offer a program up to about 500,000. That's kind of their typical rule of thumb. And then the next big piece for them is looking at the largest job you've completed. Sureties like using a 2 times biggest job completed as a rule of thumb. So if you've completed a job at about 400,000, the surety looks at it and says, okay, we don't want to jump to 2 million, but we're willing to jump to 6, 7, 800,000 for any single job. So you can kind of climb your way up the ladder, if you will, to get into those larger and larger projects. So the next and probably most important part of it for the contractors here who are kind of getting the commercial side up and running, or getting the business itself up and running and looking to grow and trying to find a way to be as aggressive as possible, there are a couple really, really good programs in place to help new contractors grow. One of them is the SBA Bond Guarantee Program. The SBA Bond Guarantee Program is a program put on by the Small Business Administration, which guarantees a portion of the risk to the surety. So if it's a $100,000 job, the SBA will guarantee either 80 or 90%. That percentage is determined by the SBA based on race and ethnicity and based on veteran status. So it can go in between 80 and 90%. And when doing that, it allows the surety to be a lot more aggressive, knowing that 80 or 90% of their risk is covered. So we had just talked about the 10 times working capital rule. So if we were left with 50,000, a normal surety can give us up to 500,000 in credit. With the SBA, when they guarantee it, the surety is able to double that. So instead of using 10 times, they'll use 20 times. So in that same scenario with 50,000 of working capital, if we partner with the SBA, your program jumps, with everything else staying the same, program jumps from about 500,000 to 1 million just by partnering with the SBA. So it's a really, really great tool as you look to grow your company and grow your ability to bond and pursue more projects. One of the next programs that's really specific to Louisiana, and not a lot of other states have it, and it's a really great program, is the LED's Collateral Assistance Program. In this scenario, if you are a small business registered based in Louisiana, the LED will post up to 25% up to $100,000 of the contract price to the surety as collateral on your behalf. So if it's a situation where the surety is just struggling because it's maybe a little too big, or maybe the company statements aren't quite strong enough to justify it, we have the ability to get the LED involved and say, look, this is a small business that's looking to grow and just needs a little bit of help getting the surety on board. And if we do, it's really going to help springboard them into bigger and better projects and really grow their company. The LED is able to come in and offer that collateral. Really, really great program. Both of them are for helping Louisiana-based small businesses grow. So those are two of the programs designed to really help them. One of the other things that's really important is that your agent has relationships with multiple sureties and understands who's the best fit for what, because different sureties have different appetites and like different types of risk and like different types of accounts. So knowing that can make a big difference. And to take advantage of the SBA or the LED program, you just need an agent who's familiar with that, which, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, construction bonding is all we do. That's our when we wake up, we do it. We go to sleep, we do it, and everything in between. Unlike all of our competitors who write insurance and bonds, we just specialize in this area, which allows us to really take advantage of a lot of these programs. And last year in 2022, we finished as the 7th largest SBA provider in the country. And we were the biggest in Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi, which is kind of our home territory where we spend most of that time. That about wraps that up, right? About wraps that up. I'll stick on here. Any questions you had, if I went over anything maybe too fast or something that didn't make sense, please ask a question. I'd be happy to dive into any of it any further.
So I'm not seeing any additional questions. It looks like you you were pretty thorough in this. I definitely want us to kind of talk about some key takeaways. So knowing that a construction bond is a type of surety bond used by investors in construction projects. The bond protects against disruptions or financial loss due to a contractor's failure to complete a project or failure to meet project specifications. So let's say, something happens. Let's say there's an incident, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, Miller, but let's say that there's an incident in some kind of way. And then, you have several workers who are unable to work, reaching a financial loss because they're unable to complete the project. That bond protects them against that, or even like Mother Nature, like hurricanes and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes and no. The bond is really there to protect the owner of the project in the case of a default altogether.
Mhm.
So an example of that, or a local example, would be the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in New Orleans,
Uh-huh.
where the whole project collapsed. That was a situation in which the bond was called on, and it's still early in that process. But the insurance company, which I believe was Travelers Insurance, will hire another company to come in and complete and finish that work. Um,
Okay, we have someone, Elisa asked, if a bond gets used, will you no longer qualify for another bond? It's a good
so
question.
I guess there's two ways to answer that question. If by used, you mean default on a project, that is, it's a very big black mark against you in the surety's eyes, that if there's a claim on a job, it becomes very difficult to get bonded again.
Mhm.
That said, with the personal guarantee on a project, oh, sorry, I was reading another comment. Yeah, so given that there is a personal guarantee on a project, there are plenty of times there's a relatively small loss, and that contractor comes to an agreement with the surety to make the surety whole and repay them on that project for the loss. If that is done, then that really lifts that kind of negative mark against you in the surety's eyes. But if there's a situation where a contractor gets in hot water and kind of says, you know what, I'm out of here, you can handle it, I'm done, and walks away, it becomes extremely difficult for a contractor to get bonded again.
Okay.
So next question about, let's see, getting into a $2.5 million job. So once you get to range, so there's, I guess, a couple things there too. If you're looking for one single job above around the 2 million range, the best thing to do to really open up your bonding capacity is to get with a construction CPA and have an annual financial review done. It's not cheap, I'll tell you. Normally that runs somewhere $12,000 to $15,000 for the CPA to review it. But what that does is it allows the surety to give you way more capacity, whereas without the CPA review, just basing it on your internal QuickBooks statements, the sureties have a hard time getting really aggressive because they're not 100% sure that number is accurate. And they'll constantly remind you, it's not that we think any contractor is lying to us. We just understand that contractors are really good at building stuff. Most of them don't start a construction business because they're really good at accounting. So having somebody who's a professional accountant come in once a year, make sure everything is accurate, make sure everything's clean and correctly and put it into the system makes a big difference for them. So trying to get above 2 million, because that's really the cutoff that most sureties use, is without a review, 2 million is about our limit. So going above that, getting a CPA review is a big thing. If you're looking to do multiple smaller projects and the total of those projects is getting 2.5, 3 million, and that's where the struggle is, you have a few options. One of them is using the SBA guarantee, because in that situation, let's say 2.5 million was the total amount of work, and that's where they were capped at. Normally, that means they'll have about 250,000 in working capital, and that would get you under a standard surety agreement about 2.5 million of capacity. But if you decide to partner with the SBA, that 2.5 million automatically jumps up to 5 million from their underwriting guidelines. So that's one route to do it. Another route is to open a line of credit. Opening a line of credit makes the surety more comfortable that if something does go wrong, if an owner is slow to pay, that you kind of have that safety net to fall back on. So those are a couple really good ways to look at increasing it. And before I forget, with the CPA review being an expensive product, it does cost a lot up front, but the surety, given that they have so much, they have a better assurance of the information they get, they're able to reduce your rate. And normally you can see within 1 or 2 jobs, you've already made back more money from a lower bond rate than you spent on the review. Going on to April's, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, finish your answer. I was just letting you know we do have a question in the Q&A box.
Yep, I'm looking at that now. April's question?
Ernest question.
Okay, I've seen April's first. I'll answer April's and then jump over there. April said that she's an engineer representing the city and preparing bid packages. Is it a good idea to always require a bid bond as a pre-qualification? And what would be the drawback to waiving that requirement? It's a great question. So there's an act called the Miller Act, which was passed federally, I think it was like 1925 or something like that, that required government projects over a certain amount. Federal is different from state, and then state projects are different from each individual parish, have their own limits that they do. Sometimes it's 50,000, sometimes it's 100,000. And anything above that, the law requires you to bond. So normally you'll see a bid bond there because you don't want to get in a situation where you award a contract to somebody and then they can't get a performance bond, and then you're stuck having to rebid the whole thing. So when bidding a project, even if you're looking at a private job, if you're for the city, oftentimes you're going to have to request a bid bond. But even on a situation where you might be working with a private entity, where a bid bond is not legally required, it's not a bad thing, even if you don't. So if I'm a private owner building a new doctor's office, whatever it may be, it's not a bad idea to get a bid bond or to get at least a pre-qualification letter, because then you get an idea of making sure that company is actually capable of completing it. Maybe you get the performance bond, maybe you don't, but you can at least know this is what needs to be done. And then let me go, you said the Q&A box.
Yeah.
So Ernest is asking about pledging his personal assets like his home. Yes and no. You don't actually have to sign a pledging agreement where they have a mortgage on your home, for example, but you would sign a personal guarantee similar to where if you're signing a lease on a building and it's a long-term lease and the owner requires you to sign a personal guarantee. So essentially, your home is part of your guarantee. So if you default on a project and walk away from it, the surety will look for restitution, and that does involve your home. That's one of the least enticing and scarier sides of the business when doing bonded work is having that risk out there and being associated with it. A couple options you have if that's something that you're really against. Hey, I'd rather not have quite as big of a program and make sure that maybe my home or something like that is taken off of the indemnity agreement. You can always look at doing that, but normally to get a surety comfortable with doing so, you need to have a really strong balance sheet in the company, which means not taking as much money out, not paying yourself as big of a salary or as big distributions, and leaving money in the company. Next question, also from Ernest, was about looking for SBA and LED assistance to be combined. Absolutely. It depends on two factors. It depends if the agent knows that they can do it, because some agents just don't even know what programs are available. And the second is what sureties, because some of the sureties are set up to use the LEDs collateral and accept it. Some of the sureties are not set up with the LED to accept it. So if you have a surety, Gray Surety, for example, is a great partner of ours, and they use the SBA. They also use the LED. So if there's a situation there, we do have the ability to use both.
And then April asked another question. She said, in a design build contract, does the contractor bear the burden of performance/payment bonds, or does the engineer absorb some of that?
The answer is really the owner. So if ABC Construction is doing a design build project for, pick the company, for XYZ dental office, and if XYZ dental office wants the performance and payment bond, then XYZ dental office needs to pay for that protection, because the bond doesn't protect the contractor, the bond doesn't protect the engineer, the bond protects the owner, which could be a personal perk, somebody building a new dental office, a restaurant, or a lot of times the government. So that's who's being protected by it. So we tell our customers all the time, on any private jobs, when an owner says, well, we might have you bond it, say, that's fine. If you want me to bond it, I'll do it, but you're going to pay for it. If you want me to get something to protect you, that's fine, but I'm going to increase my contract price or my bid price to reflect covering that premium.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we did have Aaron asked about your contact information. I know you have it on the bottom here. I know you had another slide that also had some additional contact information.
I'll comment it in the chat right now as well, so everybody has that.
And does anyone else, while he's doing that, does anyone else have any additional questions?
Awesome. Well, look, if any of you do run into any other question and say, man, I wish I would have asked him this and forgot about it, please feel free to email me, to call me, to text me, whatever's best for you. I'm happy to do that. And I will say our agency is built up. We have a very large portion of our total business is newer, smaller contractors. So being in a position of trying to grow your company and in needing a bonding company that's going to help you do it is really up our alley. So if you're in that situation, please feel free to give me a call, and we'd love to walk you through it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Miller, so much for attending today. Again, if anybody has any questions, please make sure you guys reach out to Miller. You guys can also reach out to us at info@sgicares.com. We are excited, and please make sure you guys stay connected to our socials so you can be in contact with the next webinar. Thank you guys for joining. You guys have a great rest of your afternoon.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.